All right, welcome everyone. I'm going to get us started. We go through all of the housekeeping stuff to start off with, so we'll let everyone join as we get into the nitty-gritty questions of today's session. Welcome to our Q&A with Qlik webinar series. We're so excited to have all of you with us today. This is our June session, and we're talking about Qlik Lineage. So this webinar series is a live question and answer session, or you may have seen us refer to it as our live office hours with our expert panelists. We want you to use this time to ask a question on today's topic and hopefully get to know the good people here at Qlik a little bit more. So on that note, I am Katie Davis, and I will be your moderator for this session. I'm a senior community program manager, bringing support-related events like these to our users and working on various digital channels out on Qlik community. So you might have seen me posting on our support updates blog. That's another great place to get support updates, product news, all you need to know that's happening in Qlik. I'm located outside of Philadelphia, which is along the East Coast of the United States. Now, before I introduce these great panelists we have here, I'll go over our session parameters real quick. Everyone is currently on mute, and we ask that you type your questions in the Q&A panel below. It helps us keep track of everything that's coming in. We will not necessarily be using the panel to type out a response to your questions, as we hope to get to them all live today. So our survey link will pop up when the session is ended. It's also linked right here in the presentation. So be sure to follow the QR code. It takes 10 seconds to complete. And we'll also email the survey link out today with the recording, which will get sent to all of you 1 week from today. So we love when our participants share future topics that you'd like to hear about. These can range anything from product specific, functionality focused. We even have our developer wing of the series. So if you have any deep technical questions, we're here to answer it for you. Go ahead and email those ideas to digital@qlik.com. Topic suggestions can also be included when you register for these sessions. So speaking of registrations, when you go sign up for our next session, which is in July, there's an option at the way bottom of the screen that says subscribe, and you can get monthly invites so you don't miss a beat. So keep in mind that while we have Qlik Techsperts on the line, we won't be able to answer any of your questions regarding a specific case or roadmap items. So just keep the questions relevant to today's topic, which of course covers Qlik Lineage. That's what everyone's here to see. We have a great lineup of panelists. Joining us today, we have Chris Ortega, a senior product manager. We have Marcus Herbrat, a senior software engineer, and Oscar Grondel, a senior director of product management. So I'm going to go through each of you and ask you to introduce yourself, give us some background. Chris, would you like to start?
Sure, Katie. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Ortega. As mentioned, I'm a product manager here at Qlik. I'm responsible for our catalog and lineage offerings. I'm located in Merrimack, New Hampshire, outside of Boston in the US. And between my tenure at Podium Data and the acquisition 4 years ago, I have 7 years of Qlik experience.
Great, thank you. We're happy to have you aboard. All right, let's jump to Marcus.
Hi, I'm Marcus. I am one of the developers of the Lineage services at Qlik. I came through from the acquisition of Nordgraph. I am located here in Gothenburg, Sweden. And I have, before Qlik, I worked as a consultant for Qlik View and Qlik Sense and imprinting and everything in between and outside. So I have an approximate 15 years soon of Qlik knowledge.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a long line of Qlik knowledge. All right, Oscar, you're up. Can you top that? Do you have 15 years?
I have actually.
Oh, wow. You just keep going in the.
Hi, everyone. My name is Oscar. I very much like Marcus joined Qlik as part of the NodeGraph acquisition last fall. I was one of the co-founders at NodeGraph, and for you who don't recognize NodeGraph as product, we were focusing on Lineage for Qlik, but also for other vendors like Power BI, Tableau, and so forth. And the company was acquired by Qlik, and now we have tried to integrate as much as cool stuff into the cloud offering within Qlik. I also have a man code today, so if you can't understand my Swinglish, it's not going to be easier today, right? But I will do my best.
We'll work on it. We'll try to figure it through. So I'll just remind everyone as we jump into questions that to ask your question in the Q&A panel. We have one already started from Naomi. It looks like how to set up the update with the data automatically in Qlik Lineage. So I mean, I think that has to do with, you know, reloading those connections. Does anyone want to take that?
Yeah, that would be me. I was about to type that actually, but I can answer it in person instead. So in the overview of, maybe it's easier if I just show you. Is there a possibility to share the screen? I'll share. Where are you?
Might be right at the bottom.
Friend.
It's a little harder with the webinar version.
No, yeah, I have so many windows, so you couldn't show me the one. Here, share.
Perfect.
Let me know when you can see my screen.
We see it.
Perfect. So this is my development environment. So if something doesn't look exactly like you see it, it's probably because I changed stuff. It's coming in a future release. But on the left side here, where you have the connectors and the projects, you have the scheduler. So instead of just running it from here, I've added a little eye here to show that there is additional information to be shown. But if you don't have it, you can just click on anywhere besides the actual play button to get the same effect. And here you have edit job. And from here, you can set enable schedule and have a reoccurring reload of that connector. So far, there's no ability to chain these events other than placing them in a time frame after one another. But there is at least an ability to set a schedule for it. So yeah,
Great.
Hope
Thank
that
you.
answers the question.
Yeah. And Naomi also asked, how can we update the data for an app which was created by other people?
Oh, sorry, I missed that question. Let me just double check. I am not sure I understand the question.
Permissions of.
As for Lineage and QLC, there is no ability to force reloads of applications from within QLC. So for anything data related to an application, that needs to be done through either the QMC of QlikView or through the hub or the schedulers of Qlik Sense to get those apps reloaded with new fresh data. QLC is entirely and only related to parsing the lineage of applications and sending that information to QCS, the cloud service from QlikView, to be able to present lineage and impact.
Right. All right. Thanks. And then we have another question in here from Stephen, and it says, will Qlik Lineage also become available for Qlik on-premise? So right now it's in cloud. Any thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll take the question. So what we've done is we've offered the Lineage connectors as a way of mapping your on-premise landscape, whether that's Qlik Sense, Tableau, Power BI, QlikView, and printing. We have intentionally made it a SaaS product so that what we do when the schedule that Marcus just showed you runs, we collect all of the lineage on premise and then represent that in Qlik Cloud. At this point, there are no plans to present that in any other way. I hope that answers the question.
That does. Thank you.
If not, please follow.
Just for me. Let's see. It looks like Stephen responded. He said thank you. So hopefully it does. If not, Stephen, you can reach out to any of us on Qlik Community, and we'll follow up. So there is a question in the chat from Justice. It says, is it possible to see a quick demo? Thanks, demo on Lineage. I know that was not really scheduled or planned today, but maybe if one of you could even just give like a little bit of a product overview and some use cases.
Absolutely. So what I might like to do in terms of that is perhaps share a couple of slides. Then maybe what I'll do is have Marcus take us through the lineage connectors, and then I can show how that manifests itself in SaaS, if that makes sense.
That's awesome.
All right.
I'll stop sharing. That'll also help provide context for any other questions that are coming through today. So we'll love to see that.
Let me make sure I can share this. All right, so 2 slides to give context, and then I'll just show you what the basic lineage capabilities are on SaaS. And then we'll talk about how the lineage connectors fit into that. As a general principle, there are a number of use cases for lineage and impact analysis. The first one is around understanding and trust. The idea that if you are looking at a dashboard and using a certain measure, it's important to understand what went into that measurement, and therefore I can trust it, right? And what we believe is people, if they trust things, are going more apt to use them in a reliable fashion. So, where did the field come from? How was it calculated? Where else is this used is a big one. There's also a use case around efficiency, operational efficiency, and making sure, right, that we're using the right data, we're not over duplicating data, et cetera. And so as we look at these pipelines, can we find things that are potentially duplicative? Are there impacts if I'm going to make a change to something downstream? When we talk about the lineage connectors and looking at these data pipelines, I think it's also important to map, and it's why we deployed the lineage connectors, to be able to look at your on-prem environment and applications and their data usage to really help you, if you're moving to the cloud, to set up a strategy, right? Which data sets, right, are used by the most applications, right? What are my most important applications and what data do they use? How do I make that available in the cloud? And then, of course, the last case is around auditability, compliance, right? Where does my sensitive data exist? Who's seen it? Right, being able to track those things. And so when we talk about lineage, there's really 2 aspects to it, and they're distinct in terms of both those use cases, but also in terms of the direction that we're using this data flow information. Lineage is backward looking. It's about the origin of the data. Where does it come from? What was the ultimate source? How was it calculated, right? It's really that trust and understanding use case. Impact analysis is forward looking. If I'm looking at an application or a data set and I'm considering a change, right, it's important to understand where else is this used, either directly or indirectly. Maybe it's further downstream, right, than my app or my data, but it's important to know everything that depends upon that. How much is it utilized, and therefore, right, what's the impact if I make this change? So what I'll do now is just give you a feel for how this manifests itself, and then generally, and then we'll take it into the Qlik Lineage Connectors. So what I'll do is I'll open this application and I'll open this sheet. And so as I'm viewing this sheet, if I'm the sales manager using this dashboard, this is very helpful to me, but I may have questions, right, about where this data comes from. Do I trust it, right? So if I'm looking at this particular chart, rather simple, I can click on the info button here, and what I'll see is that the item model dimension is being used here. And if I want, I can see the actual expression that's used here. So what I can see is whoever built this application has done me a favor by making some business-friendly names, right, for some of these product codes that exist in here. And as well, right, we're counting up how many of each. But I can also see where this comes from. So I can see that there's a QVD that's being used with a single field in this case. And I can actually interrogate where that comes from. And so what I can see is that this QVD that was feeding my app has 76 fields. I can choose one or all of those. It goes through a preparation job to create the QVD. If I look at where that comes from, I see that it comes from a file that has been uploaded and goes through certain transformations here. If I want to, I can even get more specific. Perhaps I want to look at my order date. And I really just want to see the lineage for that. I can set that as a new base node and track that back to its source. And so if I expand this out, I can see that it goes through this job and it comes out as order date. But you may notice something here, that there's been a rename has occurred here. The original source file called that created that. But in this case, this prep job has renamed that as the order date, and that's what's now flowing through my application. So that's that backward-looking view. The forward-looking view is impact analysis. So let's say I'm responsible for the system that generates the orders into analytics. I might like to know where else is this used because I'm considering a change here. Maybe I'm going to change order date to, or created that to be order date. When I pull up impact analysis, it's a slightly different view. What I'm seeing are all of the apps and data that are dependent on this one data file. And so what I can see is that I've got 4 applications. Here was my consumption app, the second one. This was the preparation job, but I can see that there's some other applications that are also used here. I can toggle to see just those that are direct dependencies. In other words, directly consuming this data. So in addition to that preparation job I just showed you, I can see that this guy, Joe, has an application out there that's also using that data. And I can drill through on these to look further at the information. At any point in this process, I can go to the lineage for that particular item, or make this the base node for my impact analysis, right? What else is dependent upon this? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing, but what I want to convey to you is the basic functionality of lineage and impact analysis. And what we can then do is talk about the lineage connectors, right? How will we represent your on-premise lineage in this environment? So Marcus, I don't know if you want to give a quick walkthrough of the Qlik Lineage Connectors on-premise, and then I can share how that information gets represented in the cloud.
Actually, we decided that I'm gonna jump in and show the lineage.
Okay, Oscar. Thank you.
It's okay with you, Chris?
Fine with me.
At first, I saw that we had a question. Someone mentioning that they couldn't see the lineage option in the SaaS enterprise, and there is a toggle in the management console that you need to turn on. And once you've done that, the lineage will start to generate.
And that's for their admin, right? The admin has to turn that on.
It's in the management console. The tenant admin needs to turn it on. We have plans to remove that probably in the late summer, early fall.
But speak to your tenant admin in the meantime, if you're not it.
Yes.
Thanks.
All right. So hopefully you can now see my screen.
Yeah.
So this is a classic Qlik view implementation where we have a folder structure, and probably within these folders we have hidden QEDs and scripts and a lot of things happening, right, that we can't really know where the data is coming from. And just to be very clear, so we have basically two approaches to lineage within Qlik now, right? We have what Chris showed, the automated lineage that comes automatically when you use the SaaS products only, but we also have our Qlik Lineage Connector that will cover your client managed side of the house, right? So now I'm going to show an example. If we have this Qlik view structure, how can we actually visualize the lineage for this? So you need to download our Qlik Lineage Connector, which you will find in the in the SaaS tenant. And if you go to I think it's profile settings, you will have tools, and you can download the Qlik Lineage Connectors over here. So once you've done that, you do the installation. Make sure that the service running the Qlik Lineage Connector have the same rights as your user running your Qlik services. So what we do in the Qlik Lineage Connector is that we start by adding a connector. And here you see that we have various number of connectors. The Qlik View, Qlik Sense, and the Qlik Imprint Connector are for free. So they will be highlighted automatically once you do the installation of the Qlik Lineage Connector and connect it to SaaS tenant. If you pay for our premium connectors, the external connectors will be highlighted as well, so you can use them. If you would like to, for example, visualize your entire data journey from your SQL database or SQL data warehouse through your Qlik landscape to get the full lineage end-to-end. But once we have established a connector, the Qlik Q1 in this case, we can edit it, and then we base our Qlik Lineage Connectors based on rules. So we need to tell the lineage connectors what to include. In this case, we had a folder structure that I showed you, and I decide to do an include filter where I type in star.qew, meaning that now we would like to see everything that's happening in that folder structure. So once we have done that, we need to make sure that we have a Qlik cloud target. so a connection to the SaaS tenant where we want to view the end result of this. Once we have that up and running, the last thing we just need to do is to click the play button here. And what will happen then is that the Qlik Lineage Connector will go in and make an analysis of the script log files. And based on that, we will parse that, understand what has happened, and push that data into a SaaS tenant for you to view exactly like what Chris showed us before. So if you play this one, it's a one-time reload, or like Marcus showed before, you can select it and schedule it to run daily, weekly, or something like that. So now we have done that. And then if we go to the SaaS tenant, you can see that we have now pushed this information into our SaaS tenant. And now if I would like to understand where the data is coming from, I can select my Qlik Sales application. I now have the lineage option, select lineage. And now we can follow the data all the way from the end user application on the right-hand side through the entire, data journey. In this case, we have transform steps in Qlik View. We store QBDs in between. We do an extract from the database all the way back. And very much like Chris showed before, this is on a high level that you can drill down into this data as well. So if you expand, the first level you will see will be the tables. If you expand again, you will see the fields. So now you can actually follow one single field all the way back to the original data source. So once you have set up the Qlik Lineage Connector, like I showed now, you will have very much the same capability in terms of lineage and impact analysis like Chris showed you before. All right. That was a quick introduction to the Lineage Connector.
Great. And there is a question that was out on community that says, in order to be able to use Lineage capabilities, should I install the connector? And if I'm following correctly, the connectors for on-premise and on cloud, you can just toggle and add that feature. Is that right?
So to collect on-premise lineage, you would do two things, right? One would be to turn lineage on in the tenant, have your tenant admin do that. And then you would download and install the lineage connector that Oscar just demoed on premise and configure it to point to your environment.
Okay, this is great. I'm learning alongside all of the audience members from the experts. So thank you. And I see that there have been lots of chats going on while you guys were sharing the screen. So I think that overview demo was really helpful. So appreciate it. So keep on asking your questions, everyone, in the Q&A panel below. I'm going to go through and ask a few questions I have here. So is there a way we can trial data lineage or data catalog for Qlik Sense enterprise users? Is there? I don't know if that's even necessary.
Well, as long as you have a SaaS tenant, of course you can, right? Yeah, exactly. But there is that necessity, right?
Okay. Can you share some use cases in which lineage capabilities help aid in our migration to Qlik Cloud? So people moving on-premise to cloud. Something that comes to mind for me, I'm thinking, is really just like validating once you move your apps if your data is coming from the same sources. Is there any other tips that you would utilize this for when managing that?
Yeah, and I might even go back further. I mentioned this earlier, perhaps in passing, but it's worth re-emphasizing. Just coming up with your strategy, right? Not some of your migration may be making data available in the cloud, right? It might be moving some on-premise warehouse to Snowflake, let's say. The first step in the process is really going to be looking at your on-premise environment and understanding the use of data and applications there to help you prioritize, right, what you want to migrate in the first place. So let's take some examples. Depending upon your strategy, you may want to focus on the most important applications first, right? So you know what those applications are. What are all the components, right, that need to move, including processing applications as well as data. That may be one outcome of using Lineage is I've got my top 5 apps and this is what I need to move in order to make them available. You might have a quick win strategy, right, where you've got a lot of data that's already available to the cloud. And what applications, right, rely on that? And do they have any other dependencies? If not, right, you may be able to move them or move them more quickly. So I think it really depends upon the strategy. It's really about understanding what that environment looks like and you know, what help you to establish your migration plan.
Great, thank you. I just want to point out, Marcus, what you wrote in the chat about connecting to Qlik Cloud locations.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm just going to read it. Feel free to share it with the class.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure which question you meant because there were quite a few here. I didn't want to interrupt Chris while he spoke.
Yeah,
and I did want to make sure that people felt like they were getting their attention. So that's why I typed it.
Thank you very much, Marcus. I was talking about how you're highlighting Oracle.
Let me go back to a few questions back and just go through them as they
Marcus,
were.
One other thing that I would like to highlight, which I think is very important, and I saw that question that you answered that as well in the chat. So when you, for example, have a client-managed Qlik Sense environment or a client-managed Qlik View environment, you don't need an extra connector in order to see the starting point of your data. So for example, if I have a Qlik View environment reading from an Oracle database, we will still show that first layer of the Oracle database without you having the premium connector.
That is correct.
The Oracle premium connector, right? So I think that's important. However, if you have the Oracle connector, you will see more in depth into the Oracle database as well, right? So that's just a bonus and add-on into that.
Exactly. And this does not limit itself to just databases. So going a bit tech deep, but without going nerdy, is we go through the lineage, rather the application logs, because that is how NodeGraph was built. And that is also why we rely on those applications on-prem to be reloaded before we are able to process anything. Then we take those logs and go through them just as the parser inside the Qlik engine would. And we recognize what is the sources. Are they files? Are they REST APIs from the web? Are they normal web resources? Are they databases, SQL, you know, anything basically. And then we build up the graph, the net of nodes per application, and we send that up to the QCS. So just as Oscar said, you don't need to have an SQL connector to be able to say, we asked for information from this table or this view. The thing is just that we don't know if it's a table or a view from a pure Qlik view or Qlik Sense point of view. We can't know that. We can only say you asked from things from table or the thing, whatever it's called, sales line. We don't know if it's a table or view, but we can see it's sales line and we send that information up. If you also have an additional connector which allows you to go into the database where that resides, and we can look at that thing, we can say that's actually a view and it's built upon these tables, and then you get that in an additional step. I also want to answer the question here I saw from Ricardo regarding end printing. And Chris or Oscar will probably need to step in and give some additional information on this. But right now, the N-printing connector looks at the reports built on the N-printing app, not to be confused with the Qlik app. So the N-printing app reports and the data models and the apps from the Qlik estate that's bound to it. Do we see fields that's used in report, etc.? You do, but you don't see exactly what fields there are. The reasons for this is that, as you know, M-printing is built on the content side. And right now, there is no content on the QCS. And I don't want to forego what's the roadmap ahead, because I, truth be told, I'm not that familiar with it. I don't want, if you, Chris or Oscar, would like to step in, but that's basically where it's at. So right now, you only see the application models going into the reports. It's possible to parse all this information, but it's about presenting that information as well.
Yeah, and I'll just say, without getting too much into the roadmap, we do have plans to extend Lineage into content, right? So what sheets and charts do the various fields go to, right? Where are they used, and to represent that.
Awesome. So are there any recommendations in Qlik Lineage Connectors configuration for best practices or performance? And then are backups automatically performed?
So in terms of best practice, I just want to know if you now, after this meeting, go straight away and download the Qlik Lineage Connector, that would be fantastic. The only thing I want to, mention that if you have invested like the last 15 years of like building a Qlik view estate, you probably have, tens of thousands of QEDs and millions of records and so forth, which is all fine. From a performance perspective, that will work. But I always recommend to start with a subset. So when you create the first rule, target maybe 1 or 2 applications, just to make sure that everything, connects, that the data is being sent to a SaaS tenant as you expected and so forth. And after that, you continue to build out and make sure that you cover the entire estate. So that's just, typically. Otherwise than that, it's very much plug and play and have fun.
Have fun with it. With everything here at Qlik. That's what we try to tell people to do. Great. I'm going to remind everyone to put your questions in the Q&A below. This is about the time in the meeting where I do my final call to get them through. We have a few more questions left on our end, and then we'll go through some really fun resources for you to check out on community. But I have a technical one here just to add a challenge to see if we might need more background, but it says, I am having trouble extracting application lineage with Qlik Engine API and QRS. In other words, I want to extract what fields an app uses and from which source it comes from, or at least which sources an app uses. Any tips on how to do so? Does that cover enough to answer, or will we need to know a little bit more about their instance?
It would probably help to know a bit more about the configuration itself, but that might be too detailed on a specific case in this call. But in general, it is about just making sure that the connector has the ability to connect to, as you mentioned, QRS, then it has to be Qlik Sense. So just making sure it can connect to the Qlik Sense and that there is no issues. You can do that from the connector settings and press validate to make sure that you see everything. Secondly, one thing that comes in and out depending on the situation, because a Qlik Sense instance can be very easy to configure and it can be a very complex machine depending on how your specific implementation is. And that is what the user account is used to parse and look at the engine and applications, etc. Default, that would be the internal SA reporting, I think. 99% sure. I leave that door open, but that is the case, I believe. So then it's about, if you put a rule, and in the rules for Qlik Sense, you can mention the streams, tags, or application IDs, the grids for the application. Those three settings are in a Venn diagram. That would be the union of those requirements, not the intersect, i.e. it's not the stream sales and the app ID to get one single app. It's all of the apps in the stream sales and also that app ID. So if you do cover the apps that you're looking for and it's still not working, make sure that the application has been reloaded through the QMC, through the console of Qlik Sense. If you reload it through the edit application and then just reload data, as it says in the top right corner, when you are editing the application, it does not generate the required log that we're looking for. So that could also be the cause to why you do not see an effect of it. And thirdly, in the rule where you pick the specific streams or app ID, etc., also make sure then that you have the ticked create link in Qlik Cloud, because it might be it might be that you are actually parsing the lineage and sending it up, but it doesn't generate a link, as we call it, in the QCS. So there's nothing to click when you come to the QCS side to ask for the lineage or the impact. That would be the that's usually my go-to, those checklist things to make sure where can the issue reside.
Those are some helpful troubleshooting tips there. Thank you. I appreciate that. So then my final question here, which again might be a little bit of a roadmap, so feel free to plead the fifth. Will more lineage connectors be added to the suite? So I think on the list there's Printing, Power BI, Tableau, Snowflake, Azure, Microsoft SQL, Oracle. Will more be added to that connector list? All right, then we'll just.
I thought Oscar was going to jump in.
I was this close, Chris, but I was just waiting and enjoying.
I was this close to ask you to answer.
My answer is going to be a little bit non-committal. In the near term, no. That said, we have talked about a number of other connectors for both other Qlik products as well as third-party tools. But for the remainder of this year, I would say don't expect anything.
However, to add to that, what we also see in the market is that there are quite a few like databases and tools out there that can provide their own lineage, right? They don't need a lineage connector to understand what's happening. So what we have planned for is to provide a capability to add that lineage into the same view that you show. So for example, if you have Talent can already provide their own lineage. So like bring your own lineage. That's something that we will be able to cater for going forward. And we see that that's a much more important use case than then start building unique connectors for all different markets around and all different products around the world.
Great.
That's great. Thanks for adding that. I had forgotten. Important.
All right, and Justice asks, any links, resources on Qlik Lineage, please? Thanks. Thank you, Justice, for asking that. That is the perfect segue into the next part of our webinar, which is where I share resources and fun places to connect with us at Qlik. Let me pull over my screen here. So this is help.qlik.com. Here is a long line of information on Qlik connectors, and you can kind of click through different pieces that will work for you. There's videos linked in here. Feel free to check out this whole series on help.qlik.com. All you have to do is, I just searched lineage and all of these articles pop up. So this is a great resources to run through. Out on Qlik community, which is where I live, we have a great forum here under, let me try to find it, catalog and lineage. So a lot of the panelists that are on the call today are often searching through, look, there's Chris. He answers a lot of these questions out on this forum. So you can put your questions here, and we'll always have a Qlik employee reviewing them, answering them, and even other Qlik Lineage and Qlik catalog users can answer your questions too. So it's a great way to crowdsource help and sources. I'll add just, a shameless plug for Q&A with Qlik. We live under support programs, Q&A with Qlik. This is where you'll find the recording 1 week from today. I'll let it load. It looks like my connection's a little slow, but this is where you can also sign up for our next session. Here we are, July 19th. Go ahead and register now. And then our past events, you'll be able to see live out here with all of the Q&A posted, resources posted, anything that you may need. Is there any core spot you guys want to highlight, or do you think that covers a lot of the lineage resources?
It covers a lot of it, Katie.
Okay, great. All right, let me just do my final check to make sure there's no other questions. All right, I think we'll call it a day. Everyone fill out the survey. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Oscar, for joining. We love having you. We'll definitely want to have you back. And I hope everyone learned a little bit more about Qlik Lineage. I know I certainly did. So appreciate it, and have a great week, everyone.
Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Katie. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.